Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy.
Welcome to episode 151 of Pera's Playbook. Today I'm joined by Jarrett Worley. He's an actor. He's had appearances in TV shows like Yellowstone, Daredevil, Black Lightning, Cobra Kai, Animal Kingdom, among others. I'm happy to have Jarrett on. I was telling him before, I've been having technical difficulties with the podcast. So every episode I'm trying something different. So I don't know if it's going to sound any different, but we'll see.
Sounds fine on my end, but
That's good. I'm glad because there were a few episodes. I think I did 2 episodes in a row where it like booted my guest out 3 times, and they had to keep rejoining. So then I'd had to like chunk it together after editing. It was just kind of a pain.
I bet it was. I mean, but that would have been Zoom, right? That was not your mic.
Yeah. No, that was a Zoom, and I think it's because, like I said, it's not
The old
supported.
Mac.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that's the crappy thing about technology. After so many years, they just stopped doing updates for stuff because they want you to buy the newest model.
Well, yeah, and sometimes the operating systems just don't work with the older models. I mean, especially with AI and everything that's happening. It's just how it is.
Yeah,
The chips are not as fast as the newer chips.
right. Yeah, there's certain apps that if you don't have a certain operating system, it doesn't matter. I know
Yeah.
with like Windows, you have to have a certain level of Windows to run a lot of programs, but that's just the way it is. Nothing you can do about it.
It's life.
Yeah, there's worse problems to have.
That is true.
So, did you act as a kid, like growing up at school, your school plays and all that kind of stuff?
Bro, I got a C in drama. I did when I was in drama, like I was nervous. I was on stage. I hated it. It really like basically I was working in restaurants in Vegas, and then I mean, full disclosure, there was a bartender there whose name was Dave Crockett, Davy Crockett, and I was a busboy. And there was somebody that would come in that used to be in the industry that kept talking about me. Anyways, long story short, Dave Crockett got some of his regulars at the bar to throw in money, and they bought me a headshot session. And then I did that, and then Dave Crockett called in Vegas like some of like the John Robert Powers or like whatever, like the modeling acting kind of bullshit. And sorry, you can edit
No,
that.
you can swear. That's
All
fine.
right, cool. It's an adult show. Excellent. All right, then I am from Vegas. No, but like so like that kind of made me intrigued. And then I moved to LA, got my ass kicked at like got in debt because LA's expensive. I used to race cars, so I mean I got stories, bro.
Oh,
So
stories. I like stories.
all right, so you know Wayne Brady?
The name sounds familiar.
All right, he's one of the most talented men on the planet. He's a black dude. He was on Whose Line Is It Anyway? He now
Okay,
hosts a
yeah,
show
yeah,
called,
yeah, yeah.
right? So my first scene partner in Los Angeles was his wife, or his ex-wife now, but they're best friends, was his wife. And my girlfriend at the time was a dancer, so that kind of connected us. And I started working for Wayne. And then when he actually loaned me money to get a car. I bought a car, wrapped it around a tree in Las Vegas, had to
How'd
call
you do
Wayne
that?
and say I
There,
couldn't
there's
work
got to
for
be
him. I'm
there's got
sorry.
to be a there's got to be a story with how you wrapped it around a tree.
I was racing. I used to race a lot, and I was racing, and they were doing construction, and I started to drift a little bit, and I overcorrected. It made the car whip around, and then I hit a palm tree. It
What
was
kind of
bad.
a car was it? Was it a nice
I
car?
had a 300 ZX twin turbo T-top, so it's like 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
Real wheel drive. So yeah, it was fun. Anyways, so then that brought me back to Vegas. I worked at the restaurant, worked a bunch, paid Wayne off, moved back to LA. Wayne helped me out with some of that stuff, and then just started working my way up. And then I found some acting teachers that really kind of opened my eyes to the craft and like the psychology behind it. And then I fell in love. And then it's kind of been just an uphill journey ever since, you know?
Yeah.
Um, it's just a
That
grind.
your story, it kind of makes me think of Matthew McConaughey, and he met the guy that got in the role in Dazed and Confused. He met him at a bar.
Oh
Like he
yeah,
was
that's
just at
right.
a bar hashing it out, and this guy was like, "Hey, we're filming this movie. You should come read a part for it." And then he ends up being Wooderson, and then like takes off his whole career. It's like
All right, all
you
right,
know.
all right.
I've got a little Wooderson Funko Pop over here on my desk.
Oh yeah? Oh nice, man.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy, right? How life happens sometimes, right? Like just things
Yeah.
happen, and obviously it's not exact same, but it's similar kind of a situation. You're working at this restaurant, and that's kind of what got you headed in
Yeah,
this direction.
yeah, it pushed me into the scene because I never, as I said, I got a C in drama, so it's not like I enjoyed it. But then when I met the right acting coach and you started like going into scenes and going into the dialogue and kind of trying to find the perspective of various characters. And obviously when you're in an acting class, you're working on roles that you probably would never ever get paid to do. I mean, in Cobra Kai, I'm drunk tourist number one doing stunts, but in acting class, I'm doing death of a salesman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the psychology behind it is just great. I mean, obviously it transfers and everything, but that's really what like made me fall in love with acting. And then I started just reading as much as I could. I did some plays in LA. I had a few different coaches. I had various levels of success. I mean, it's a grind. I mean, you can be booking 5 or 6 things in a year and you think you're on top of the world and then crickets for the next year and a half. And so it's just, you kind of have to make peace with that. But then eventually you look at your resume and you're like, wow, I've worked as an actor. I've been on some great productions and I'm grateful for it. So,
So are there times where where you like question, did I make the right decision? Like those low periods where you're talking about where you
oh,
don't like
this
where you're like
morning. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm gonna butcher this quote, but like Jim Carrey has a quote, I'm sure it's made the rounds on the social media. But basically he's talking to a bunch of graduates and as I said, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, his dad was telling him about how you can go and do something that you think is going to be successful and that's going to like that what you're supposed to do. And then you can still get fired. And he's like, or you can do what you love and maybe not make it or whatever, but you're doing what you love. Because his dad was an accountant and eventually got laid off and then had to start from scratch. And with everything that's happened just in the last 5 years with COVID, with the actors and the writers strike, with peak streaming, and now the huge contraction that we're experiencing right now. It's just there's always something, but you gotta remind yourself of like you only get one life, so like what do you want to do with it, you know? And I've always been drawn to acting for the reason of doing the research and like just today I had 2 auditions, right? One, I had to be an inmate doing stunts where I cut someone off and then get into a fight, but I had to do it myself because everything's self-tape. And then the other one, I'm playing a Secret Service agent for the president for a multicam sitcom. And so to do the homework on both, and mind you, like that's I'm being very generalistic right now, but like to sit there and to pretend to be an inmate and try to like think about how would you walk, how would you talk, how would you say that line, and then to be Secret Service, but in a comedy, how would you walk, how would you talk, what would you wear? That huge range is what is why I keep doing it, you know. I mean, I'm engaged now, me and my fiance, we want to have a family. So that definitely poses some questions because I think in this day and age of streaming, where you used to be able to book 4 or 5 guest stars, and I'm not sure what your knowledge is of guest star, co-star, all that stuff, but like, and forgive me, I'm not, not trying to talk down to you, but like a guest star is you get a little bit more money, so you get more residuals. You're more of like one of the main characters of that particular episode. You're not brought back, you're just for that episode. But if you would do 4 or 5 of those a year, then with the residuals from network, you could have a nice middle class life. Excuse me, with streaming and just, the cheapness of everything from taxis to Spotify to Uber and Lyft and all that. It's just you have to do more of that to kind of have a living, to create, to be able to have a family, to do various things. Or you get a second job. Or you just become one of the lucky few that happen to book a show that runs for a few seasons. I mean, I have friends that have been on TV shows and now are working in restaurants. And it's the reality of it. But to be on set, to be a part of culture that's going to be there forever, like to me, that's worth it. Right? To be on Cobra Kai, even though it's just on one episode, but to be on that set, to be on such a great show, right? It was an honor. Like I'll bring water to the stars. Like I don't care. I'll bring water to Ralph Macchio. Like whatever. You know what I mean? So when I have the opportunity to be the drunk tourist where I say a line and then get flat backed on the concrete, sign me up. Regardless of what I'm doing when I have kids. Ideally, I would love to continue to keep doing this. I've had a decent career. Sorry, I'm not trying to get. I don't know.
No, you're
I
good. No,
wanted
I
to turn
love
it
it.
into
I
a
love it.
therapy session.
No, no, it's awesome. You're like jogging so many thoughts here from like what other people have said. I'm trying to like remember everything. Like you're the seventh guy that I've had on the podcast that has had a connection to Cobra Kai, and
Mhm.
most of the people had smaller extra roles. The biggest one I had was Joshua Lamboy. He was the Russian Sensei Ivanov. He had some speaking roles, whatever. A
Mhm.
lot of the people I've had on played members of different dojos at the Sekai Taikai. You can see him in background shots. But they all said kind of the same thing that you said. It was worth it just to be
Yeah.
there, just to experience that, just to see it happen live. I mean, History Unfolding, it's one of the hottest shows in the world right now. You're part of this major universe that dates back to the 80s with the original franchise. So,
Yeah.
people ask that question, is it worth it? And I mean, their experiences, their memories. You're like you said, you're forever a part of culture. Now, nobody can take away with that. That you were
No.
there, you were part of that.
And also, here's another little stat for you, right? Okay, so to get on the show, let's just say you're an actor and you're going to audition for a co-star role. 3 to 5 lines max, right? Basically, what I was on Cobra Kai was a co-star role, but it was more stunts that had dialogue than anything, right? Because that's what I was hired for, is for stunts on that one. Um, but as an actor, when you go out for a co-star role, right? Because I think on one of your, and by the way, I love the questions ahead of time. But like one of your questions, like how do you get your roles? Like who are you submitting stuff daily, weekly? So you want to have agent, manager, right? And nowadays you can be wherever. So you want like Southeast agent, New York agent, Chicago agent, LA agent, whatever. And so they have breakdown services, and breakdown services is only privy to people that really A, pay for the service, but B, also are part of agents and managers, right? You can't just go online and get it. And those are the breakdowns, and they are coming out daily, Monday through Friday. And those are going to be all the shows that are casting for particular roles for that basically week. But as I said, it's daily. So those come in, and then the manager and agent submit you. The casting directors get these submissions. They get up to, it caps out about around 2,000, right? So they get around 2,000 submissions. They go through them and click on who they want. And they click to about 40 or 50 people out of 2,000. And these are people that are represented. And then out of that 40 or 50, they'll probably have a callback. Those don't exist anymore, but like they'll probably bring 4 or 5 of them to the producer or the director, whoever has final say. Sometimes the casting director has final say, but whatever. So that whoever has final say, you'll have 4 or 5 choices, then they pick one. So it's like to even get on set, it's like you've already swam to the top, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I remind myself of as well, because it's just
Yeah.
it's not an easy career and it's disheartening but it's so satisfying when you get that one win. And that one win
Right.
usually ends and then you're back at ground zero. But that one win is nothing better, bro.
Yeah, and I feel like see this. I think this is great. Like like learning and like that's what I want to learn more. I like having people on the podcast learn. I hope the listeners learn because I think there's a lot of people that have a clouded view of like college athletics, professional athletics, the Hollywood world, and now I'm trying to dive like into each one. People probably look at like a guy like you if they just looked at your IMDb and they'd see like, oh man, like he's had roles in all these big TV shows. He must be living an awesome life. It's easy. It's great. Like
I
people
mean, I
just
am,
but
but
like they probably think that getting whatever role you want, there's like no trouble. Like athletes, they think like, oh man, that guy's making crap tons of money. Like his life is easy. I feel like people sitting on their couch, they don't see the behind the scenes. They don't know how hard it is. They don't know what you have to go through to get that role. And like they don't understand that like I mean like take a guy for like The Rock. They're like yeah, he's on the top right now, but he wasn't always on the top. Like he had to work his way up and it wasn't easy. Most of the actors that I've talked to on my podcast had times where they could barely pay their bills, right? They were just like barely keep food on the table. One of them, Dennis Hayden, he was in Die Hard. He was one of the like terrorists. That was
wow.
like one of his biggest roles. He was living in an alleyway when he first moved to LA. Like, he was homeless for a period, and then a few years later he's on Die Hard hashing it up with Bruce Willis.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but like the Oscar race, The Brutalist, that you heard of the film? So it was one, it
Yeah,
didn't win, but it was one of the top 10 nominated for an Oscar. The director is broke. Like he
yeah,
had to use some of his own money to like get to the Oscars. Like that's kind of an eye opener that I think a lot of people don't think because you do when you're in People magazine, entertainment, you see the glitz and the glam and you think it's that, but it's like there's so much work that goes into it, which is also kind of sucks. But I get it. I get it. It's a
yeah.
brand and it's a business. It's show business. It's a business. But
Right.
and everybody wants to do it. But when you finally get, as I said, like when you get on set and you're a part of it, it's special. You know, I have various
Yeah,
friends of success and some that are still successful and some that are not. I have friends that have left the industry, and it's just, it's one of those things, and you just kind of have to like listen inside and see what you want to do with, as I said, with your life. And even if you just do it for 5 years and you go and become an accountant, there's no shame in that, you know?
no.
So, but yeah, it's definitely like, it's it's fun, but it's hard.
And those memories, like if you do that for 5 years, like those memories will never be gone. Like the
Never be gone.
experiences, I mean, it still happened. You're somewhere. I mean, everything's out on the internet now. Like people can watch your show, whatever episode you were in,
Yeah.
over and over, even though you're still an accountant. Like that episode is going to be out there forever.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's cool. It's like that across the board. Like I've talked to a lot of people who play like minor league sports, right? Like they went to D1 college, but they weren't good enough to make it to the NHL. So they're playing in some lower league, but
They
they're
were in
also
D1. It's like,
right. But then now they're like delivering pizzas on the side because they're making, it's like being in the NBA G League. I
yeah,
looked up like what the salary for that's like 40 grand a year. Well, if you live in
nothing.
a big city, that's not much. So you've
No.
got to be Uber driver on the side, or you're delivering
I
pizzas or
mean, a
whatever.
one bedroom apartment in LA right now, you're going to be looking between 13 and 2 grand, depending what amenities and how nice you want it
Yeah,
for a one
yeah,
bedroom.
that's right. And what if you have a family, right? You got all this stuff. You got to buy
Yeah.
food, pay the
And I'm
bills, and
like,
all
I'm
that
definitely
stuff.
lowballing it. I'm being average, but
Oh
like
yeah,
it's insane. But
yeah, for
anyways,
sure.
Let's bring the
So,
internet back up. Yeah, yeah, let's go positive. What else is on here?
so you were talking about like these different types of roles, right? Like co-star, guest star, all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like your role on Yellowstone, right? What was that? What does that qualify as?
That was in between because another thing that's kind of crazy is like I'm in the season finale of 1923, by the way. Go see it. Excellent show. Darren Mann, who is in the show, amazing actor. Anyways, he's a buddy of mine, but he's fucking fantastic. But like for that, like they brought me out for 3.5 weeks, and I didn't know if I was a guest star, co-star, reoccurring. I was gonna be in 2 episodes, 1 episode. So you don't really know until it really hits the air. Like I did a huge stunt in Mayors of Kingston, and they cut the whole thing, which sucks. I mean, I got paid, but like it cut, So
Yeah.
so you don't really know what it is. But to answer your question, Yellowstone, I would classify that now as a co-star of what the
Okay.
final product is. I would classify that as a co-star because a guest star typically would be if you're watching a procedural, right? CSI, like, oh, the main killer, right? Who's in like multiple parts, that would be the guest star. The co-star, he's in it and then he's out and you never see him again. That would be a co-star. A reoccurring
Okay.
somebody is like a love interest to like one of the main characters. So they're probably in 2 or 3 episodes. That would be like a reoccurring. But
Yeah.
also things are changing right now, a lot of it because of, I mean, not to get too business related, but like it's expensive and they need content and content costs a lot. And because of all the tax incentives throughout the country, a lot of productions leave in LA, which is why I'm in Atlanta. But with that being said, there's a lot of, not a lot, there is some leeway of co-star, guest star on how they pay certain actors. Now, I'm not trying to like get into like the union and politics of all that, but answering your question, there's sometimes you could be acting as a guest star traditionally, but you're being billed as a co-star and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's
It, it's
changing.
it's interesting you bring up that point, like people leaving LA. Atlanta is like a new hub where there's like a lot of stuff going on. Cobra Kai was in Atlanta. I know
Mhm.
Florida, there's a lot of stuff going on in Florida, Texas. There's stuff,
New
so there's
Mexico,
different,
Jersey,
yeah,
Kentucky,
different
Tennessee.
pockets around the country where, I mean, now you can be all over the place. There's different productions going on, which I mean, I don't know. Maybe do you think that makes it easier? Because like you don't have to be in LA now. So like if you're an actor, like you can land a role because you're in Atlanta. So there's more stuff in Atlanta. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I got to fly out to LA to do this.
Well, it's complicated. So is it better in the sense that like, oh, I can be in Atlanta and have a better quality of life for the amount of money I would make? Yes. Do I miss in-person auditions? Is there something about driving onto Paramount Studios or onto Fox Studios or onto, Universal, driving onto the lot, parking, getting your little name that says, "Here, Jarrett, you're allowed to walk on set," and you're walking past sound stages. I mean, I got chills talking about it, bro. You know what I mean? Like that I miss. And that happens to a select few, right? Like obviously like people that are, that are huge that are reading for top of show and movies. Like yeah, there are studios that fly them out and they have meetings and there are still some auditions. But dude, I would be on a TV set or a movie like studio lot once a week when I was living there auditioning. Like that's beautiful. You feel like you're in it. Now I Zoom with someone, I'm auditioning to a computer, I'm trying to connect to a computer, I'm standing there doing all my lighting, I edit and I send it off. It takes so much magic out of it, but it's convenient because I don't have to drive and down the 10, to get stuck in traffic to go to an audition in Santa Monica. Now I can do it. It's due on Friday at 5, so I can do it whenever I want. So there's give and takes. And also not being in LA, it's like you're not on the grind. Like when you would work in a restaurant, everybody was an actor. Like you were all in it. Who's your agent? You
Yeah.
could share information. Now everyone's all around the country. So it's like it's hard unless you're in a class. It's hard to keep up with those. And I try to. I talk to my friends in Chicago, I talk to my friends in LA, talk to some of my friends in New York, and I try to keep my finger on the pulse of like what's happening. And you know, it's what I just said. Everyone's kind of feeling the same. It's like we miss in-person auditions, but it's never going back to that. And we're all grinding. And it's also there's more competition, obviously. Before when you had to drive to the office, the casting director could only see so many people in a day. Now the entire country is auditioning and they can watch it in their pajamas over the weekend. So, it's never going back. I wouldn't want to work out of my pajamas, but it does suck. You definitely lose some of the art in it,
Yeah.
but it's the reality and you have to adapt. And that's the thing. It's like if you want to have a career in this industry, you have to adapt, you have to adjust, you know. You have to figure out a way to
Yeah.
make it work, figure out a way to feed your kids, put food on the table, pay your bills, because you can't act from a place of brokenness. I mean you can, but I'm being generic, you know what I mean? Like if you're a father of two working in a restaurant, trying to put your kids through school, it's going to be very hard to create from your best place unless that perfect role comes along. But, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just rambling. Sorry.
So no, you're good. Like, so obviously there's pros and cons to the new world, but like it's like that everywhere, right? Like there's so much stuff that people don't have to go to the office anymore. Like
Mhm.
so many people work from home nowadays. And I know there's a lot of people that miss that. Like a lot of people like that office atmosphere, going to work every day, talking to people. I know I'm a social person. Like I hate at
Yeah.
home. Like during COVID, when I was in college, I hated that sitting at the kitchen table doing Zoom class. Like it sucked. It was stupid.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. And I've talked to other people who said the same thing about you. Like all the auditions are on over Zoom or everything's online. And one guy, he's done a lot of voice acting, and he said he used to like going into the studio,
Yeah.
meeting the other castmates, doing the voice recording, and then going home. Now he just records it at home and sends them the clip, and there's no connection, there's no
There's
personal
nothing.
relationship.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say same thing with the auditions. It's like you audition, you film it, you send it off, and the only thing you get is that if you book it or get pinned, you get information. If you did a good job and they don't pick you, you don't know. Like you just send it out into the void and then you got to do your best to move on. And it's like if you can figure out a way to still love it with that, then I think you can find a career out of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there are new
for sure.
generations which this is all they know. You know what I mean? There are generations of actors that have only done self-tapes. I'm
Yeah.
older than I look, so I remember the time that we used to do in person.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's circle back to Yellowstone, and we'll talk about a couple of the other roles quick. So like as an actor, do you like enjoy work? Like, so you got to work with Wes Bentley. Like, do you
Oh, bro, he's the
watch the way
man. He's the man.
he works, and you like pick up on the way he does things, and
Yeah,
like like obviously, like if you're backup quarterback to Tom Brady, you're gonna pick up on like how
thousand
he
percent.
performs. And like, is it the same thing with you? Like when you're working with somebody like that, you're picking up on how he does it.
I mean, me personally, bro, when I'm on set, I'm taking notes constantly. One of my best and oldest friends is a stunt coordinator, was an actor, stunt coordinator. He was actually the stunt coordinator for Cobra Kai. I mean, that's how Cassidy and I were able to get. I mean, we still had to audition and fight our way to the top, but like, we definitely had someone in our corner. But one of the smartest, I mean, he's said a lot of smart things to me, but one of the smartest things he said to me is like, Jared, when you're on set, like, don't be like everybody else. Like, watch the director, watch the DP, watch the stunt coordinator, watch the leads of the show. Like, see what they're doing. Like, listen to what the director's saying because you're gonna start to learn about this medium, right? And how to be better at this medium. So in answer to your question, yes, like working with Wes Bentley, like it was obvious that this guy has been on set the majority of his life. Like it was so natural. Like I'm just absorbing. Because when you're a co-star, it's like it's awesome when you book these, even when you're a guest star, it's awesome that you book these roles. But what sucks is that you are now joining a team that has already been a team, right? So they've been working together, they're in it, they got the inside jokes, they're a unit. And then you pop in and you got to find your way to be in that unit as quickly as possible, and then you're done. And they just continue to be a unit. So it's like, it's actually hard to try to do that. So yes, I mean, even when I was on 1923, like I was on a soundstage with Helen Mirren, Dame Helen Mirren, and Harrison motherfucking Ford, right? And I'm watching these guys act and watching Helen Mirren forget her line and ask for a line, and Harrison Ford saying, "Oh fuck, I messed that up. Can we go again?" Like it just, you're like, wow, okay. Harrison Ford took a private helicopter to set, but like he also forgets his lines like me. That's cool. And how does he approach? Oh, he's so nice. Okay. You know, and maybe these may not mean anything, but like when you fight so hard to get on set and you get on set, there's this aura, and then you get on there and you're like, oh wait, they bleed like me, right? Okay, cool. And then there's a relaxation that kind of settles in. And so, yes, and answer your question, yeah, being on with Wes Bentley was like that. I was on Daredevil. I did 2 episodes of Daredevil, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend it because I did awesome stunts in that. Season 3, episode 1 and 2. And episode 2, we did a 5-minute oneer. But also, I'm gonna drop Don Lee, who's the one of the coordinators in Gary Stearns, and Chris Brewster, amazing, all amazing stuntmen. They did a 15, 4, but I forget, but I think it's a 15-minute oneer on episode 4 of season 3. Highly recommend you watching it. And you know, are you familiar with a oneer?
What's a water?
Oh, okay. So a oneer is a one take, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you do everything in one take, which is there's some films, it's starting to come back again. There's some films like Children of Men, True Detective first season had a nice oneer. There's some movies that try to do an entire take without a cut. Doesn't work as well. But when you're doing a fight scene, it it can be difficult because if you mess up at the end, you have to go back to the beginning. So
Yeah.
so I yeah. So but anyways, I was talking about Charlie Cox. Charlie Cox, also who plays Daredevil, who's also in the new Daredevil season, Born Again. Awesome guy. I learned a lot from him as well. And so I'm trying to circle back. I have a tendency to talk a lot. I'm sorry.
That's good. That's perfect.
All right. I'll try to stay on subject.
No,
Um,
that means you're meant for podcasts when you talk.
we'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
But yes, like I'm constantly absorbing because when you're working with people that are always on set, like Charlie Cox, like Wes Bentley, like Harrison Ford, like Helen Mirren, like you learn so much just by observing on how they interact, on how they learn their lines, and how what they do in their downtime, right? Like, are they studying? Are they meditating? Are they just drinking coffee and eating a donut? Like, it's just very interesting because everyone's going to have their own take of what you do, you know, and it's interesting.
So do you think does your like how important is your resume? You know, like when there's thousands of people applying for this, like how close are they looking? Like, hey, this guy was in all of these different series. Like, are they calling people and saying like, hey, how's Jarrett? Like, we see he did this show with you. Like, does that matter, or is it kind of like everyone is on even footing to start like an audition?
I think it's both. Now, I'm not a casting director, so I don't want to speak for them because they're going to be, if you ever interview a casting director, that would be the person. But I have casted before. So I have been on the other side once or twice. I wouldn't call myself a casting director by any means, but I've been on the other side. And it's interesting because yes and no. Bottom line, the best actor is going to get the role. And best is, it's all perspective, right? Like, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like it's to each person. So it's your work. And so when you watch auditions, you can tell actors who didn't study or who didn't do the work or who were nervous or who were rushed. So that gets people out. So you want to find somebody that is prepared, and if they mess up, they recover and they turn it in on time and they've listened to everything. So like when you get auditions, there's a certain way to label your audition to send it in. And a lot of casting directors have they have special instructions to see if people are paying attention, because the casting director doesn't know you except for the videos that they see of you. And if they're going to cast you on a show that shoots in Montana, they're putting their name on someone they've never seen or met in person, right? So that's where the resume would come in. So if someone turns in an audition, they fucking crush it and they embody this person, then they'll deal with it. They'll deal with, oh, she's green or she's drama or whatever, you know. But if it's like a one-liner and you got to make a decision because we're shooting tomorrow and the writer Taylor Sheridan just added a cowboy to this scene and we got to fly somebody in tomorrow who has one line that has nothing to do with anything, and the casting director submits it and gets 2,000 auditions, that's, I think, when the resume comes into play. Because you're like, anybody can say two lines, but who can show up to set with Taylor Sheridan and be professional? And then you look in the resume, it's like, oh, he worked on 1923. Oh, he worked on Cobra Kai. Oh, he's been on set before. I know he'll show up to the fitting on time. I know he won't miss his flight. And I know he won't ask Helen Mirren for a photograph in front of the director on the soundstage. Right? So I think it's both. I think it's the audition first, and then things get filtered based on, because I just did a casting workshop with a casting director who casts a tons of shows. And she's in LA, and none of the shows she casts are actually shooting in LA. So everyone she casts, she has to have faith in them based on their auditions, their work, their agents, their managers, the relationships they've built. And she was saying just like, yeah, like they try to go off the best actor, but they need to they need to look at your resume to see if you work, to see if they can put you in these situations and represent them in a good light. Because the casting director wants to get hired again as well, right? So
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, right, they have a job to do too. If they fuck
yeah,
up and they send some guy who's a complete klutz and he just bombs it, terrible. Then there
yeah.
they go. Now they're not.
You want to
Now they don't have a
hear
job.
you want to hear how I got into stunts?
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
So, do you play video games?
I used to. I don't as
Do you
much
know the do you
anymore.
know that's fine. Do you know the Far Cry series?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So my buddy Don, I mentioned, he was stunt coordinating. Ubisoft was getting ready to release Far Cry 5, right? Which is a great game. And so they were going to spend about $1 million to do like a 20-minute short film to kind of promote the video game, right? Which is something they do because it's one of their biggest franchises. So Don calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, I want you to audition." So I came in to audition for a role with the casting director, with the director. I auditioned. They're like, "Great. Can you read for this role instead?" Cool. I went out in the room, studied, came back, auditioned. Great. They're like, "You nailed it. We'll let you know." As I'm leaving, I go home. Don's like, "Dude, you did so good. We're just waiting on Ubisoft, because they have the final say, da 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 da." Anyways, a few days later, Don calls me up and he's like, "Jarrett, I'm sorry. Like, would you be willing to shave your head? Like, the role that you read for, they're going to go with someone else, but we're going to cast you in this, it doesn't even have a name, but we'll fly you out to Montana." It was Montana as well. Shot 4 times in Montana, by the way. Love that state. So we were in Montana. So, So I'm like, cool. I just want to work with Don. I just like whatever. And as he's on the phone with me, telling me that, the director comes into his hotel room and goes, yo, we didn't say yo. I said yo. He goes, hey, will Jarrett do his own stunts? And I do martial arts. And Don knows that. And Don goes, yeah, just answer it for me. And he goes, okay, how tall is he? He goes, 5'11". Great. Shuts the door and goes. And then Don comes back to me and goes, Jarrett, you'll do your own stunts, right? I go, I've never done stunts before. He's like, you'll be fine, man. I've trained with you, you'll be fine. I was like, cool. What happened is that I went from a no-name one-liner to second on the call sheet because the person that was second on the call sheet was a big name actor. I don't know who it is a bigger name than me, but like a well-known name. He was being so difficult. He rumors, people called, not rumors, people called up like his excuse me, let me get my thoughts here. I don't know if it was somehow someone found out about production that he held hostage, right? And being held hostage means that he wouldn't come out of his trailer unless certain demands were met. And some actors can do this. Like if you sign the contract, they fly you out, you're shooting in Montana, and you decide not to come out because you want heaters in the river before you get in it. That's holding the production hostage. That gets it very expensive, right? So that number two, the director was having so many issues, calls friends of his, found out this guy was difficult, held production hostage, fired him, and said, "Will Jarrett do his stunts?" And so that's how it became. So I had to do my own stunts to then become number two. And then I went and did my stunts and did really well. And fast forward, now I act and do stunts.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's such a roller coaster. Like the up and
Roller
down. Like you
coaster.
got it, now you don't. Maybe you do, and now you're up here. Like it's just
It was not fun. It was a very emotional weekend.
yeah. It's funny that you asked if I played video games because I used to I used to be big into video games, but I feel like with college I got busy, and now that I'm out and I'm working, I never have time. And I work at a high school, and we had no school yesterday and no school today too because of snow. We had like a blizzard. We got pounded with snow. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna break out Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I'm gonna bust out some, and I was so
Go.
horseshit. I was so terrible.
Yeah.
After not playing for so long, I was like, holy crap, I'm bad. Like I can't aim anymore. I
Yeah.
I can't make it
I mean, that
go.
I mean, people talk shit about video games, but it trains your hand-eye coordination,
Oh
your
yeah.
quick decision making. Like, I don't knock
Oh
video.
yeah.
I'm not good at
No,
them either.
no, like the people who do esports, that's crazy.
It's impressive.
That is wild. And there's a ton of money in that. Like there's
Yeah.
if you're good at it. I
If you're
mean,
good
like
at it.
that's why it's taken off as like a college sport now. And like
Yeah.
people are being recruited to
Yeah.
go play whatever. I don't even know what the hot games are anymore, but I don't know,
I
Smash
don't
Bros.
either.
I
It's a
know
lot of
people are
PC.
still
Not a
I know
PC
they're
game.
still yeah. Yeah, I can't remember our high school's got an esports team now. And
What do you teach in high school?
I don't teach. It's a really long story. So I went to college for forestry. I went 4 years, Bachelor of Science in forestry. I
Cool.
was a forester for a year, but I was
Cool.
living two hours away. So I wanted to get back home because I was going to be getting married, and I didn't want to live 2 hours away from my wife. So I took a job at a sawmill, and I wasn't a big fan of forestry either. So it's fine that I'm not in it anymore. But I took a job at a sawmill, kind of more on the like post production. Like the wood has been cut. Now it's at the sawmill. We like grade it, and so I was like a grader
Make
and
it into
scaler.
paper.
What?
They said make it into paper.
Honestly, I mean, cheap wood. Like I was at a log, for like logs, so like our stuff was going. Depending on the grade, it could have gone a number of places. But like the company I worked for, they had a veneer mill that they made like skateboards and like all kinds of cool
Okay.
stuff. So it depends on the grade of the lumber. Anyway, I was there for like 3 weeks. It was right around 4th of July. We got a crap ton of wood in, and then we just stopped getting wood in. I was like, this is like weird. Like, why aren't we getting wood? And they kept saying like, oh, I forgot to mention this company had just been purchased by this Hoffman Corporation. And if you look up this Hoffman, he's a billionaire. You know, he's worth like $1-2 billion. and he just purchased this company. And they kept saying like, we're not getting money from the Hoffmans, but like we're in contact and like we're gonna get some money soon. And, this went on for a little bit, and they laid us all off. Everybody in the entire company got laid off, and the original like family that owned it before they sold had doctored up the books, so like fuck the sale, and we all got screwed over. So I looking for a job in the summer. My mom's a teacher, and she was like, "You should apply for a parapro job." I was like,
What?
"Okay, cool." Like
What?
parapro, it's like a kind of like a teacher's aide.
Okay.
So I applied, and I got the job. And like we have a room. We call it like the online room and testing center. So we've got some kids taking like online Chinese, and like maybe they like need to make up credits. So there's like online kids all day, and then it's also a place that like teachers will like leave tests for kids that were absent, and they can come in any time of the day and take it. So like I'm in there in the morning, and then the afternoon I work like kind of one on one or like one on two with kids on like algebra 2 and biology, and kind of like tutor and help them. Like I go to algebra 2, I take notes, and then like I help them. They take my
That's
notes or
cool.
whatever. So yeah, no, it's awesome. I like it a lot. You get to do some cool stuff. Like during our Spirit Week, I hosted Jeopardy for the school. Like like you get to do some weird, like fun, random stuff.
That's cool.
I like it a lot better than forestry.
Yeah. And you said you're social. I can imagine forestry would be a little solitary.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's plenty of days where you were just out in the woods by yourself, and
Yeah,
there's people, they love that. That's
yeah,
good for
yeah.
them.
And they
But
can take those jobs.
yeah,
But you,
no,
I need
I love it. We've got an enrollment of like almost close 450 to 500 kids in the high school. You've got whatever 25 teachers. There's people everywhere. I love
Yeah,
it. I'm talking to
that's cool.
people. It's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's kind of a long story, but yeah. So I was talking about it with a kid. I was like, if we have a snow day, I'm gonna bust out some old video games, and it
Would you
was
bust out?
just the COD, just the COD.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh,
you
that's what you're
know,
talking about. Okay, cool.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, video games are fun. I have an old. It was I think it was my wife's brother's. I can't remember if it's the old Nintendo or if it's the Nintendo 64 lying around the house. Should bust that out at some point.
Definitely should bust. If it's the 64, you gotta get the James Bond. Like
Oh
that's classic.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I feel like I've watched YouTube videos of like people
Oh
playing
yeah.
that.
Oh,
You know?
classic. My favorite actor?
Yeah. Let's go there.
My favorite actor, it's a few, but Daniel Day-Lewis off the bat. I love Matthew McConaughey, especially True Detective. Um, Walton Goggins is right now like my absolute favorite. He's crushed. I mean, I've always loved him, but like, yeah, he's in Fallout and White Lotus. Like he's one of my favorites.
You're the second person on the podcast to say that. Second actor who's
You say
said that
Walton
was Walton.
Goggins?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I've loved him since The Shield.
I didn't watch Fallout. I know a lot of people said great things about it, but I watched. I never finished it. I've got a. I'm drawing a blank on what it's called now. It's oh, what the heck was that called? It was like a down south. Timothy Oliphant. He was like a U.S. Marshal. Walton Goggins was like the bad guy. Justified. Justified. That's what it was called.
Justified. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I watched Walton Goggins in that. He played a nasty, mean, kind of guy. He did a
Yeah.
good job.
He was so good in that. Yeah, Justified. But yeah, cool. But that's my
Yeah.
favorite actor. If I could work on with any actor on a project, what would it be? I would love to do like, you ever seen The Raid?
No.
I forget, it's Gareth something. The Raid, you should check it. I think it's on Netflix still.
Okay.
They have a oneer in that, but it's like it's an awesome fight, like just fights in action. And that's what I would love. Like not necessarily a John Wick, but like a John Wick. But a
Yeah.
director I would want to work with, which won't happen, is Quentin Tarantino. And I say that because he's only
Hey,
gonna do one more film and then he's done. I mean, maybe.
well, he says that, but you know how many like rock bands say like we're going on our final tour ever, and then they
Yeah,
do
you're, hey,
three
you're
more
not wrong.
tours.
You're not
you know,
wrong.
sometimes they can't resist the urge.
Yeah.
I feel like a guy like that. I mean, he says that now, but a few more years,
To be in a
he gets.
David Fincher or Quentin Tarantino film, I think if I would die, I'd be happy. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
DiCaprio also, if I could work with DiCaprio, like that's just a man who's just a genius. And the other actors I've mentioned. There's a couple more that I want to mention that I can't remember their names. But like Kyle Gallner, fantastic actor. I don't know if you saw Strange Darling.
mm-mm.
It just came out. I think it's going to be on one of the streaming services soon. Fantastic film. Highly recommend that. Giovanni Ribisi, who's a great actor as well, was the DP on that, and they shot that on film. So great movie.
Yeah. I'll have to add it to my list.
But 1923, you should watch because he's doing 1923, then 1940 something, then 1960. He's going to work his way up. But 1923 is solid, man. The first season, the acting is on point.
Better than Yellowstone.
I mean, Wes Bentley's great. But yes, much better. You
Yeah.
know,
So
also, but
the
also
prequel
Yellowstone.
show ends up being better than the prequel show
Well,
is better than the original series.
well, I was going to say the reason is because Yellowstone was something he wrote and he kind of took off. And so with 1923 and 1883, and then the sequential ones he's going to come out with, those are contained. So 1923 is only 2 seasons, and then it's done.
Right.
So when you have like an end point, it's easier to kind of like create the story, right? And have an arc and finish it all up. Yellowstone didn't have an end point. And I think that's why as the seasons went on, it got wider and wider and wider. And when people jumped in, it was harder for them to figure out like what was going on. So that's what I think is happening. Because he's also going to be coming out with the four sixes. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with the four sixes?
Nope.
All right.
Gee, you probably
So
think I'm a complete moron right now. Like all this.
no, 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 not at all. No.
Have you seen
I
this?
I
Nah.
I like to know a little bit about a lot of things. So my fiance says that all the time. But the four sixes is the original ranch, right? It's one of the original ranching families. It's what Yellowstone, that family, Dutton family, is based off of. They were one of the originals. Taylor Sheridan raised $375 million and bought it from the family. And they didn't sell it for me. I'm talking about, dude, this is land from Texas to almost Utah. Like it's nah, that's lying. It's mainly Texas, but it's massive. It's like 300 acres. That's where they shoot a lot of the shows. They also shoot in Utah and in Montana. But Taylor Sheridan raised money, bought it, and but all the shows are based off the Four Sixes Ranch. And he's actually opening a restaurant at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas called the Four Sixes. It's a steakhouse. It's limited, but it's like his whole thing. But the Four Sixes is a show that is coming out at some point. But it's the
So is that going to be like a documentary type show,
no, no,
or
no,
is it going
it's
to be
a
like
show.
a?
Taylor
Okay.
Sheridan's writing it. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
He's kind of one of the people that's making Texas like a new Hollywood almost, right? Like because he's got so much going on down there.
I mean, he was
Um.
definitely one of the people. It's just, I mean, the thing with all of it is just LA kind of, I mean, to get political, like LA kind of screwed up. They let a lot of the tax incentives get away from them because they never thought that it would leave. And then COVID really pushed that. I mean, New Mexico has two movie studios there. Vegas is building their second movie studio. Jersey has a bunch of studios. Atlanta, we have 9 studios. There's movies filming in Kentucky, Tennessee all the time. It's just, and I'm not trying to be bitter because I left it. It's just like LA, I think they got too comfortable and didn't think that studios are going to leave. And with streaming, because with streaming, you're not making any money. Well, not you're making money, but not what you used to. So you have to bring down production costs. How do you bring down production costs? Well, you don't shoot in LA and New York, you know. And when
Yeah.
people are offering you a 40% tax incentive to shoot in Louisville, Kentucky, then you shoot 4 days in LA and you shoot 28 days in Kentucky, you know?
Yeah. Right. Or
And that
Montana.
or Montana or Austin. And that's what's happening. It's just the reality of what's happening to all the big cities, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, which is for better for worse. There's more I'm pessimistic about LA, but I'm optimistic about the film industry. I feel like the film industry needs like the fact that it's everywhere now, that means anybody can get involved and you're getting so much great artistry, right? So many different things. Like it's just so many different films and movies and TV shows. And I think it's great for creators and it's going to be great for the consumer as well. It's just right now we're going through a transition and it's just LA is going to be hurting for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how it is with a lot of things, right? You don't know how good you've got it till it's
Yeah.
gone. I mean, like, that's. But I want to step away as we end the podcast here from movies. I see you're drinking out of a Braves cup. Obviously,
Yes,
you're in
sir.
Atlanta. Are you a big sports guy or?
I am, but I'm not. Like I love UFC because I grew up in Las Vegas and we didn't have sports teams until recently. But boxing and UFC, the whole city came. But I've always been a Braves fan. Like always. Like 90s Braves when I was like in junior high school, like I loved the Braves in the 90s. So when we moved to Atlanta, I have to. I'm a Packers
Yeah.
fan because my fiance is from. I know. I'm sorry. Don't judge me, bro. I know we're rivals. We're rivals. But
Well,
her.
I'm not a Lions fan either, so that
Okay.
doesn't.
No. Okay. I
No,
didn't
it's
know if
weird.
you were Lions or you were Bears. I didn't know.
No, not that either.
Vikings.
No, not Vikings either.
All
It's
right.
I'm weird with my. I'm one of those people that it's like I don't want to pick a sports team just because I live there.
Yeah.
So like I'm a Titans fan. I know that's like way
Okay.
out of left field,
Yeah.
but because I'm in Michigan and I'm a Titans fan.
Yeah.
Um, none of my sports. I don't root for a single team in Michigan or like the Midwest, other than Notre Dame. Like diehard
Okay.
Notre Dame football, basketball, everything.
Cool.
But yeah, no, I'm all over the place. So I just can't stand the Packers because like everyone around here, honestly, there's more Packer fans because where I am, we're so close to Wisconsin. Like I
Yeah.
drive a few hours, I'm in Wisconsin. It takes me.
That's why your accent. Like we were at a Packers game over the holidays because like her family has season passes. So like they're diehards. I mean diehards. So I had to, obviously become a Packer fan. Don't judge me. Don't delete the podcast.
No, I'm not that bad. It's just I like giving all my friends that are Packer fans shit. Like one of the guys I work with, he's a diehard fan. Like if there's a Packer game on, that is what he is watching. Nothing else. It's got to be dead silent. He listens to all the Packer podcasts. He knows every guy's name and like he lives and breathes Packers football. But
That is
I
not
just
me.
no, well, I'm not that big like in the NFL. Honestly, I like watching it. I like
You watch
I'm a
UFC?
Titans fan. I actually have never been like super big into any of the like fighting sports,
Yeah.
like boxing, UFC, any of that. Um, like I watched the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight because
Bro, that doesn't count. That does not count. I'm actually a Jake Paul fan, but I'm saying that does not count.
no, that was fake. Come on, I mean that wasn't a legit fight. There's no way
No,
you could watch that and say that
it was
that's like that.
elder abuse, dude. It was elder abuse.
Well, yeah, he could have knocked him out so early, but I feel like he didn't want to embarrass him. He didn't want to do that to his idol. Like,
I'm actually glad that he didn't, to be honest.
yeah,
And I think the fight was bullshit, but I'm glad that it went the way it went. Give Tyson, like, let him do what he needs to do. Like, whatever, give him some money.
yeah. And I like Jake Paul too. Like, but I want him to fight some real fighters. Like,
He
he's
will.
fighting a lot of, right, guys that were in the NBA. Like, that doesn't mean shit. You beat that
Yeah, but
guy.
he
Like,
fought Tyron Woodley. Tyron
He
Woodley
did.
went there to fight because
He
because
did.
I have friends that are friends with Tyron. Like Tyron Woodley went in there to fight the first time. Second time probably was for a paycheck.
Right.
Wait,
Yeah.
did they fight twice? I think they only fought once. They only fought once.
I can't remember, honestly. Is he gonna fight his brother now? Isn't that the new talk? Logan and
Bro,
Jake are
I
gonna
don't
fight.
know. I don't even know. Like
I
see,
mean,
like that to me makes me mad because that makes it seem like a show.
well, yeah, exactly. You
Like if you
can't
want to
tell
be
me that
considered,
that'll be fair. Like
yeah, it's like your
that'll
brother's in
be scripted.
wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't
So
know. I think it'd be. I know he keeps talking about he should fight McGregor. Like I know McGregor's not a boxer, but like I
McGregor's
think that would.
it'd be
I
dude, it'd
think that'd
be
be.
I'd pay for it.
Well, exactly. It'd be fun to watch. Like
Yeah,
just because.
McGregor is not really a fighter anymore, and he was one of my favorites for a while, but power and fame went to his head. But that would be a fight. I think Jake Paul has the advantage on that one, to be honest.
Oh
He's
yeah,
big by a
I do
lot.
too. I think it'd be better than him fighting Mike Tyson. Like
Yeah,
and the Netflix, they totally fucked it.
they
It
did.
totally a horrible. It kept cutting out. Everyone I talked to kept getting booted out, and it was so
Yeah, they
slow. It
did
was just
fix it
horrible.
though. They did fix it for the Christmas Day Super NFL. They did fix
I
it.
didn't. I didn't even watch it because
I
I
just
don't know.
read
I
the
was doing other
trades and I,
stuff,
I
but
read about like the viewership and I try to learn about the business as much as I can. Um,
yeah.
because I try to have both perspectives. Because going back, like if I want to have a career in this, I need to like read the tea leaves and kind of see what the reality is. And like the
Oh
reality
yeah.
is you don't need to be in LA and you need to figure out how to audition in your living room with a computer. And like that's the reality. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, like it's gonna set you up for success more than that guy who doesn't really give a shit, right? He's just half-assing it, right? I
yeah.
mean, it's like that with anything you do. You got to do it 100% and doing your research. I mean, you can really feel like a lot of stuff. You can't do too much research. I mean, if you're gonna buy an expensive car, you should do some research on it. You should just walk on the lot and just say like, "That one looks pretty. I'm gonna pick it." Like, no, do some research. Like, if you're gonna spend the money, it's the same thing with your career. Like, if you want to have a solid career, you got to do what it takes to be successful. You can't just half-ass it and expect that you're gonna get the returns.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah,
Thousand.
for sure. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. It's a good time.
Alex, it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate this. Thank you, bro.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.